Can we just pause here for a second? And I think those are great points. And I think a lot of us had issues with sort of granular examples, which I think kind of erodes the credibility of all this. This lawsuit is existential, right? I mean, this wants to blow up the model. This is the nuclear option. And Andy, like you said, we're using terms like conspiracy and we're using terms like corruption. And we're talking about policy changes and little annoying bits of policy and who can play. I mean, it just seems as though this is a really severe outcome potentially over policy decisions that could be altered. And something can be screwed up and something can be in need of amending and something can be in need of a discussion without smashing the institution. And to think that you have this lawsuit and then what it amounts to are sort of little bits of policy that could be amended, I think is something we ought to give some attention to.
Well, John, I talked to some people at the PTPA, and after kind of voicing my opinion on their statement in regards to the center thing, we had some really good conversations in Miami. And one of the things that I heard, and again, I don't know the real inner workings of the ATP like that, so I can't say that they're wrong or I can't say that they're right. But what they've said is they're just, the way that the system is currently set up with the board and the way things get passed, players don't really have the voice that they're told that they do.
I agree.
They get told that they have a 50-50 voice. But, and this, honestly, John, to your point, or to what you just said, I think then leads to the things that I actually like about the lawsuit. I think the lawsuit does a great job. I think it makes some good points of illustrating how little freedom we actually have as independent contractors.
Right.
There's no real other.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, I think big picture, and then we can get, I think there's a real balance here between granular specifics and then sort of what this represents. And yeah, I mean, look, if you're trying to represent players, we all think there needs to be more player empowerment. We all think that the percentage of revenue the players get is scandalously low. We all think that decisions about balls and schedules and formats for mixed doubles at majors, that it's really crazy that goes on without the players' input. Okay, fine. And if you represent players and you can't get emails returned and calls returned and no one's really acknowledging you and players roll their eyes. I mean, the tournaments and the tours roll their eyes when you try to contact them and you get meetings on the books and players still feel excluded. You do something dramatic. But I also think this is just, this lawsuit is kind of sloppy. As you point out, there are a lot of cases where just a medium core tennis fan could pick apart some of the arguments. I'm still not convinced there's anything per se illegal going on. I mean, some of these, some of this language is awfully exaggerated when you read about decisions like chasing ranking points and playing 2 events within a certain radius. I just think this is a really dramatic way to try and get some more player representation. And I think we all, in theory, support a louder, more amplified player's voice. We all like to see players get more money. We all know how this plays out, which is players say, "Look, I'm here to hit balls. I'm not here to sit in rooms with mahogany desks and go through proposals." And the tournaments and the management side basically waits out the players, and the players get screwed, and it's been that way.
Yeah,
which has been happening for 40 years. I mean, it's literally like, we'll wait longer, and we don't have a full-time day job, and so this is what we can focus on, where we know there's division and different languages and different preferences, and basically the bet has been with division of players with less than 50% representation for a long time. That needs to change fundamentally. I think this lawsuit does a bit of a disservice, because if you're an organization and you've been fighting for credibility from the outset, to me, it's frustrating. It was frustrating when they came on our show because I couldn't get like a straight answer. They talk about their members, and then you say, "How many members do you have?" And they go, "Well, is that important?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, kind of. How do you source members?" And they go, "Well, I don't know." Or there was just no simple answer to very simple questions. And I think the meat of this lawsuit is pretty straightforward. They could have had, a pretty simple path to say, okay, I don't know if you're the people to deliver this. I don't know that you've gained trust or credibility. I don't know that you're the team that, players want to back. Even if you've had 250 conversations, like, I can't, you know, they're really good at saying things that I can't disprove. I can't disprove that
yeah.
that
100%.
I can't disprove that you've
They've
had
spoken to over 300 players,
but
and some are afraid to come because they're out of threat of retaliation.
Yeah.
So we're going to speak. It's like, so you're speaking for all of the 300 players that you've spoken with? Like, do they all believe in you? Like,
my 7-year-old daughter came in last night when I was in a deep REM, and she said, "Dad, I think there's a monster under my bed." And Chris, I tell you, I sure as shit, I couldn't look at her and say, "There's absolutely not a monster under your bed." I'd bet against it. I'm pretty sure there's not, but I'm almost positive there's not a monster under your bed. So I guess my question for you, Chris, while we have you, and we're an informal show, so if you have to go get to your day job at any point, just tell us. But
no, I'm all good.
But if you're a group that has kind of twisted truths, maybe, and it's probably some of it's my fault for, but you don't answer a question straight, like a very simple question. It's like, you ask them what their favorite pizza shop is and they tell you about a great place to get ramen. Like there's no, it doesn't actually make sense. So what you're telling me about your specific 4 examples frustrates me endlessly, because if you're this group that has struggled with continued support, not the idea of it 6 years ago, which I think people are pretty open to the idea of a union and association. I was beating that drum when I was playing. I got shut out of a room of the top 25 players in the world. Not shut out, that's dramatic. Basically had to look them in the eyes and tell them why what they were complaining about, they were the issue if they weren't willing to unify and support the causes, and they had different things that they cared about, therefore division would happen. So unless you're willing to actually step up and do something, stop complaining about it. And, went through a point-by-point thing, and, I think they left going, okay, well, we get yes, there does need to be a separate thing. But if you're struggling for credibility, why take these liberties with different disinformation, with things that are easily disprovable, and make it, easy for skeptics like me to go, you just lied about this thing that is out there for public consumption that is very easy to get right. It's just, you wrote it down in a lawsuit wrong. Why do that?
I honestly don't. I think like I said, even in my examples, a lot of times the gist of what they were saying, I could kind of follow until there was always that one word. It was regardless of the reason or forced to do. It's wording that I'm just I don't think that's exactly accurate. And to your point, I think you're 100% right. You didn't have to take those risks. You have other cases, like the Marco Trungelliti thing. I thought was, if the facts of what they're saying are true, I think they have a strong base for that, of how they feel and the way that they represent it. But again, if I can pick out certain things in my 3 or 4 examples, it makes me question, well, are they omitting certain things from the Trungelliti case? Are they saying certain things that are leading me to believe that, maybe the ITIA really threatened to remove whatever protections he was going to have for agreeing to testify, whatever the case? I'm now I'm just kind of second guessing everything, which makes it hard for the points that I actually like to go, well, is this real, or am I falling victim to it because I genuinely don't know? I talked about the things that I knew. I knew about the ITIA. I knew about the 1 event per week rule. That's all I knew. So when I read it and I read their kind of depiction of it, I was like, I don't really know. But it's tough to really know the things that I like. Is it real? Am I missing something else?
One of the other things that's as an example of, in all their press this entire week, we've had 250 different player conversations. All right, I can't have an opinion on that because I'm not you. I wasn't there. I have no basis in fact to disagree with you. But what I do know is that you chose not to speak to Carlos Alcaraz, Coco Gauff, and you didn't run the language by your co-founder, Novak Djokovic, to the point where his comfort level would have been okay putting his name on this. And I know Jack Draper didn't hear from you. So I'm going, okay, then who did you, how do you not, for me, I'm going, okay, do I want you representing me if it's the most obvious thing in the world to talk to the people that are going to get asked about it the most and have clarity of message to have
and
clarity
doing
of
it
message
before Miami. Yeah.
to have clarity of message for the people that are going to be in front of the microphones. For them to say, we haven't even heard from you, but then you're claiming this blanket coverage of conversations makes me go, yeah, that's probably bullshit too. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my instinct, is to go, you didn't talk to the most obvious mouthpieces, but yet you're telling me you've basically covered all your bases, that you've done it in a bad way then.
It goes further than that too, right? I mean, this is a competitive industry. What is one thing we always say? It's a star-driven business, right? As you would expect when you hand out trophies every week. The fact that so few stars, never mind putting their name as named plaintiffs, and you're right, that the fact that the guy who co-founds the organization that has lodged this suit does not feel comfortable putting his name on the lawsuit, that's problematic. But when the other side of the table, when management, when the tournaments, when the defendants in this suit realize how few top players are voicing support, I think that's problematic. And I think the other thing is, it's easy to complain, right? It's easy to have gripes. It's easy to be a disgruntled employee. What is the alternative? And I wonder, Chris, from a player's perspective, if some of you guys, I mean, I don't want you to speak on behalf of your colleagues. I mean, you personally, if in fact this is successful, do you worry what the alternative is? I'm not sure what this sport looks like. If in fact this is anti-competitive and the tours need to be smashed, I'm not sure I like what tennis looks like. And I wonder if you've thought or discussed what the outcome is here, because I don't see a lot of sort of superior proposals on the table.
Yeah. So, I haven't really spoken to too many guys about it. I've kind of thought a little bit about it myself. From my standpoint, I think that if the lawsuit is successful, I think it results in one of two things. I think it changes the current structure of how decisions are made. So right now, they talk about in the lawsuit, there are 4 board seats for tournaments, 4 board seats for players. Any ties that come up that get voted for goes to the ATP CEO, Andrea Gadenzi. From their side, is they say that Gadenzi consistently sides with the tournaments over the players. And from what I was told from someone at the PTPA, I don't know how true it is, but what they said was, in order to get small things passed, I don't know how they measure small things, but you have to get a majority. In order to get big things passed, you have to get a super majority. So I think players are frustrated that the current structure doesn't really allow them to have a voice, especially when they feel that the ATP and the tournaments are kind of in cahoots together.
Which, by the way, has been the feeling for a very long time.
Yeah, 100%.
Just so
I
we're clear.
actually like the fact that the Larry Ellison example was mentioned in the lawsuit, because that's
dumb
stuff that I had heard for years. That, oh yeah, Larry Ellison years ago wanted to up the prize money at Indian Wells, but the ATP wouldn't allow it. So that's just hearsay, locker room talk. So to see it written in black and white, I go, oh, so that there's some truth to that. Like, he did want to increase the prize money. He does want to make it bigger and bigger, but is capped in how much he can raise the prize money, because I don't know if it's out of fear of making the other 1,000s look bad. I don't know, whatever the case may be. But to your question, John, I think a restructuring of how decisions are made in the ATP, I think, is one option. The other option, in which they kept kind of leading to it, but I just don't know if there's actually a market for it, another tour, another competitor, similar to how golf did. And we've seen it.
That worked out well.
Exactly. So it's where, you have the PGA and everyone tries to play the majors, but this separate tour came up. If I'm not mistaken, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't follow golf that well, but I started to kind of read into it the past couple of years. For a while, live golfers were not allowed to compete at certain majors, and eventually they ended up changing their mind. So in my head, I'm like, okay, so are they saying they want, obviously there's the ATP tour, maybe there's another tour that still allows acceptance into the 4 majors from both tours. Maybe there's 75 players from the ATP tour that get into a major and 25 from an alternative tour that get in. And then that's how they kind of balance it out, so that players can still compete for the biggest titles in the world. Maybe this other tour has their own versions of Masters. I don't know. That's the only thing that I can wrap my mind around of what type of structure will change they can ask. Because I actually asked somebody at the PTPA, I said, most class action suits that I've seen, because I believe Vermont was very clear that this is the
point I want to get to, I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, most class action suits that I've ever seen always result in a financial payout.
Correct.